Hello and welcome to the Story Behind the Stories for the September 10th edition of the Neepawa Banner Press. I'm your host, Casper Wehrhahn, and I'm here today with Ken Waddell. Ken, thank you so much for joining me today.
Good to be in the other chair and back. Appreciate it.
Feel kind of weird sitting over there as opposed to over here?
No, I'm fine. I really appreciate that you and Owen and Kira took over when I wasn't able to do so there back a while. And just so people know, my health is theoretically back to normal, but I've said many times in the office, and Casper, you probably get tired of me saying this, but you don't build capacity within the business by having the old guy do it all the time. So I'm more than happy that you three folks are quite capable of doing the job you're doing today, and I have full confidence in you. So,
well, thank you very much. Yeah. And it aligns with building capacity. Actually, Kira and Owen are out delivering papers today, taking care of some of your route. And they're doing a good job with that. But without further ado, let's get into the paper. We have a lot of stuff that happened this week. Some right before we had to start building pages. And just getting right into the front page, and in my opinion, as we're so inclined to do so, with this TV show, because it is news and opinions. Bit of an unfortunate front page, because it is Maxime Bernier, the People's Party of Canada federal leader. He was in town on, I believe that was Tuesday, September 7th, along with the rural candidate for that sort of election there, putting their message out here, because they felt that the media wasn't really covering it well enough, the mainstream media, that is. And so they were just here giving their speeches, meeting people, and seeing what they can do to boost up their party.
Yeah, and they certainly can't criticize the Neepawa Banner Press because we put them front page. And another follow-up story inside. Owen did it. I believe Owen did both stories, right?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, and the thing is that I was telling Casper before he came on the air, I know Maxime Bernier fairly well. I didn't go to the rally. As editor, publisher, I'm tending to stay away from these rallies. I will, and I do obviously, put my opinions in the column, but Maxime would probably have cornered me and talked to me, because we have met several times. In fact, back in the day when he was a Conservative Party of Canada member of Parliament, in fact, he at one time was a cabinet minister, but after he was a cabinet minister, he was here in Neepawa speaking at a meeting, and I walked into this meeting expecting, well, a few people there, and there wasn't, and the person in charge said, "Ken, you're chairing this meeting today." And I said, "Oh, okay, nice to know," but anyway, and it was a good enough meeting. But Maxime Bernier, a lot of people don't remember, but he would, except for some lobby votes that came out against him, he would have been the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. He lost by less than 1% in the race against Andrew Scheer. And he obviously didn't like the fact that he lost, and I think there was issues on both sides between him and Scheer, but he decided to pull out and start his own party. And you know, it rarely works. The closest to success with that was Lucien Bouchard, when he pulled out of the Conservative Party, or the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada, as it was called that time, under Brian Mulroney, and formed the Bloc Québécois, which still has seats in the House today. But Bouchard was very powerful cabinet minister. I think he was a second-generation cabinet minister. Bernier, second generation at least politician. His father was I'm pretty sure was a MP, if not a cabinet minister. And so they go and take their toys and go home and play in their own sandbox. I mean, that's being critical, but that's what's happened here. And Bernier, like you say, he's articulate. Owen certainly said he was articulate. I know he's articulate. He's not as strong in English as he is in French, but they certainly can't say we neglected him. It's on front page.
Yeah. So. We covered our bases, and you know, that's even if it's things that we don't necessarily like to cover, we are doing our due diligence to get the stories out there, make sure people know what's going on. And in that vein, actually, we had a visit from Heather Stephanson, and this is sort of to do with the other leadership race that is going on right now, in addition to the federal leadership race. But provincially within the PC party, as people may know, they are looking to elect a new leader for the provincial party. And we did get a visit from Heather Stephanson just recently. She stopped at Arts Forward and met with the people of Neepawa to hear what their concerns were, any questions they had, and to just tell a bit about herself. And Ken, you know Heather Stephanson a bit, right?
Oh yes, I've known Heather Stephanson for at least 20 years. She was I think an intern or an executive assistant in the early days back under the premiership of Gary Filmon. I don't know if she worked for Filmon or one of the other MLAs or not, I can't remember. But she is from the Tuxedo area. And when Gary Filmon retired about 99 or so, Heather stepped in to that constituency and won the next election and took over the Tuxedo riding in Winnipeg. And she has been in an MLA and now a cabinet minister now for 20 years almost, and very experienced, quite personable, easy to talk to, certainly knows her stuff, and she does have the support of our local MLA, Eileen Clark, plus several other MLAs, and is running for the leadership. Now she has competition. I'm assuming we're going to hear soon from Shelley Glover, who is a lady who represented the St. Boniface constituency federally for the Conservative Party of Canada. In fact, she was a cabinet minister too, but under Stephen Harper. And before that, I knew Shelley. I hadn't met her, but everybody knew Shelley because she was on television several times a month as chief spokesman for the Winnipeg Police Services. So this person was arrested or this happened or that happened.
Yeah.
She was always the spokesperson. So she's well known and very well spoken. Shannon Martin, who's an MLA, is also running. The trick will be, I think it's by the 15th of September, they have to have 1,000 new or renewed party memberships to stay on the ballot. If they fall short of that, they don't get on the ballot. If one of them or two of them fall short, I don't want to be I don't want to be the person that has to tell them that, because it ain't going to be a pretty time, but that's the rules. Yeah, Heather was in town, and I didn't go to that one either, but she certainly she wants the job and seems pretty qualified for it, but it'll be between the 15th of September and I think it's the 30th of October. They'll be campaigning back and forth across the province and vying for votes of people who are members of the party. And on the 30th, a new leader will be declared. I'm still trying to clarify, if they're not an MLA, I don't think they become premier immediately. I think they have to, like if Shelley Glover would have to run in a by-election. And because I think you have to be elected MLA before you can be declared premier. I don't think you can be premier without being an MLA. You can be the leader without being MLA.
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes leaders don't have a seat in the House if they lose an election or before they're elected. But I'm pretty sure they have to be an MLA before they can be declared premier. It's a very rare thing, but anyway.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. And I know that it'll be challenging because at the meeting as well, they did mention that memberships are actually at an all-time low. That's how they worded it. So they're really trying to get those memberships, I'm sure, this year. And one thing that I think people appreciate about Heather in particular is that she is Winnipeg-based, but has been really trying to get out to the different communities and interact with them and actually know the areas outside the boundary, because a lot of people don't do that when they're from Winnipeg and get into politics, right? Yeah,
she travels readily outside the city. I mean, that's never been an issue for Heather. And you say about all-time low, and that's typical of the Conservative Party. It's also typical of all parties. Unless there's a leadership race or a lot of contested nomination races, the memberships are rarely high. It takes those races to develop new memberships, sell new memberships, and But once a person gets to be an MLA or an MP, they do the very best they can to avoid ever being challenged. And so until they retire or are defeated in an election, then you don't have another candidate race or leadership race, and so the numbers stay pretty low. I mean, you know, and maybe some of our viewers know, I ran for the leadership of the job that Heather's running for. I ran for in 2006. Obviously didn't win, or wouldn't be sitting here, I guess, right? But anyway.
And I guess one thing we could know as well is that Heather did mention she had opportunity to step up before. That wasn't something that I put in the cut line there. It's not a full story, just a photo and cut line. But she did have opportunity to step up before. The circumstances just weren't right for her. She had a family that was starting. So she could have, and she did kind of want to, but cards just weren't quite right. But she has the opportunity to do so now, and is seeking that out. So it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. In your estimation, who do you think might come out on top with this race?
Oh boy. Well, there's a fourth candidate. It hasn't come out in the media yet. It's on Facebook. Former party treasurer Ken Lee is said he's running as well. I have no idea how many memberships he can. I know him well too. He's very well respected, but he was the party treasurer, and he actually kept the party going in a lot of ways when things weren't going well back in the day, and for the party. I don't know. Certainly, I think the front runner right now would appear to be Heather, because she has support of so many MLAs. But it's all a matter of how effective she or the other three candidates are in getting the vote out. A lot of people don't understand. You can sell 1,000 memberships for a nomination race, but when it comes to actually mailing in the ballot, or even more difficult, it seems, to show up in a meeting to vote, you're very fortunate if you get 65% of those people to show up. So 350, 400 out of the 1,000 don't vote. It's a little higher rate of voting than the normal population, but it's amazing. People will put their $20 on the line and then don't vote. And it's really frustrating for the candidates. Oh, I got 1,000 votes here. No, you don't. You've got 650.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of whoever can get the highest number of people out there. And I would say Heather probably is the leader at this point. She's the one to beat at this point, yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see soon enough whether you're right.
Yeah.
And I promise viewers, we're almost done with the political candidates. We just have
come
one
on.
more to go over.
More
for now.
politics.
We have more in the future, but
come on,
for this
Casper,
paper.
we need more politics. Sorry.
We got an interview from the Green Party candidate, new to this area, perhaps not new elsewhere. Shirley, and I apologize if I pronounce his last name incorrectly, Lambrecht, I believe.
Yes, Lambrecht, yep.
Is the Green Party candidate here, born and raised in Saskatchewan, and kind of an interesting story there. I just gave it a quick once-over this morning, actually. My memory is still rusty on all the details there, but sounds like an interesting candidate to look at. I'm not historically a Green Party voter myself. I don't think I've ever actually voted for the Green Party, though I obviously do take the state of the environment quite seriously. I want to take care of it, make sure we have a planet that's going to last us a long while, you know. But Ken, I think there was some discussion in the office before that this candidate actually came from somewhere else originally. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I can't remember exactly where she's from. I haven't read the story directly, but as is the case with a lot of parties, especially if they're having trouble filling their slate, like People's Party of Canada doesn't have a full slate. I'm sure Green Party doesn't have a full slate. I don't think they have somebody in every constituency. They will pick somebody who is, hopefully, and I think this lady, I have no reason to believe she isn't quite capable, and parachute them. It's called a parachute candidate. They drop them into a constituency. And it's rare for a parachute candidate to do really well. She has a really, really tough row to hoe here because the Green Party of Canada is polling at about 3-4% type of thing across Canada. And then they've had, I feel very badly because they've had some really tough issues at the top end. The leader, Ms. Paul, had a rebellion on her hands there for whatever reason. I don't know the ins and outs of that. And so they've really hurt themselves in this. And I do feel badly about that. People make me laugh because they think I'm the most conservative person in Canada. But I see a lot of things that the Green Party stand for deserve discussion and deserve some some inclusion in party platforms. I one time told, when he came to my doorstep, the Manitoba Green Party leader, I says, you're young, you're good, you know what you're doing, but I says, please don't make your career shift too late in life. And he says, what do you mean? I says, you will never be elected in Manitoba as a Green Party candidate. But what you say has value. Pick another party, bring those values into that party and grow them through. And that's what Maxime Bernier should have done. Some of the things I agree with what he said, some of them I don't, but he should have stayed in the Conservative Party and fought. There's a place to fight these out. I mean, I've been in these conventions and these policy sessions and all the rest of it, and that's how we work. We don't say, oh, well, I lost that, I'm leaving. I mean, you have to be pretty disillusioned to do that. And the Green Party, I think, should be working within any of the other parties, even the Conservative Party. You might figure that's strange for me to say that, but I think that there's a lot of people in the Green Party who should be bringing those, environmental policies, climate policies, social justice policies into the other parties. I see no harm in that. Mm-hmm. They could call me the most conservative person in Canada, but I'm a social justice warrior right along with all the rest of them. Just happens to be the party that I work in or have worked in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you mean with that, because historically the Green Party is very much a one-issue party, or seen as a one-issue mm-hmm. party. I know they've sort of branched out more these days, but that's still very much the vibe I get from people, is that they consider them a one-issue party. So they do get votes, but I imagine it's a bit harder for them to get votes potentially. So it would be kind of interesting to see how things would change up if they amalgamated or spread out into the other parties. Just see what kind of policy changes they could potentially get going there and hopefully get put into place.
So you might be able to, this maybe, I can't for the life of me remember the people that were involved, but it's probably 30, 40 years ago when the NDP party was formed. It's maybe longer ago than that. It was the CCF, Canadian Commonwealth Federation, and the National Federation of Labour kind of amalgamated to form the NDP with Tommy Douglas as the leader. Hazen Argue was involved, a whole bunch of people. Well, a few years after that, there was a group that came in, and I can't remember what they called it, but they got quite a large influence in that party, and to this day, some of their policies are still part of the NDP platform. But they were a group that, came into the side. Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, knew he wanted to get into politics, and he and Marchand and Pelletier met together, actually with René Lévesque, and said, okay, how are we going to do this? And they wanted to be in the NDP party. And NDP party of the late 60s, they said, this isn't going to fly in Quebec. And it didn't for many, many decades in Quebec. Jack Layton brought it around into Quebec a few elections ago. They said the only place for us is the Liberal Party. And so they basically infiltrated, which is quite legal. I mean, they formed a Quebec group within the Liberal Party, and he became Prime Minister, and all those other two guys became cabinet ministers. That's how it's done. Mm-hmm. They probably didn't agree with each other all the time, but politics is about coming together and agreeing on enough things that you can move forward, and being civil about it.
Yeah.
While you're going forward. Anyway.
All right.
We better get off politics here. So you're right. You're right.
Yes. With after a long discussion of politics, it's always nice to grab a nice big drink of water. Unfortunately, don't have that with us. Hopefully you do. But we do have some news about the Neepawa pool. And this is something that we've been sitting on for a while now. Feels like a few months, probably hasn't been. The passage of time in the sense of days with COVID and everything going on just kind of, it doesn't really hold very well. But we just got confirmation, and so this is in the paper now, that the Neepawa Pool and Park has received some funding to help with a bunch of different upgrades here. The pool area is going to be upgraded with a few different things. A standalone slide and all of that. Accessibility standards are going to be met with the pool, and the building is going to be designed as well to meet accessibility standards. And there's going to be other things, as I said, there's going to be park upgrades as well. They're looking at doing, I believe it was basketball, tennis, and pickleball courts. And they are working on planning out where those courts are going to go. So we're going to see a lot more activity in Neepawa. There's a good chunk of money, too, that they received. It's $294,700. So good sum of money there, and I'm really excited to see the changes that this brings to the pool.
Yeah, that is good. It needs an upgrade, and I guess I'm old-fashioned. This is to be at least the third upgrade of that pool, but that's been there for 50 years, so
yeah,
you've got to keep upgrading things.
Yep, and these most recent upgrades have also been sort of in the talks for a while now. I don't remember the exact time frame there, but it's been going on for a while. They've been working up to getting it done, and well, now this should hopefully put them well on their way. And much like a dip in the pool is relieving, I'm sure a lot of people are feeling a sense of relief about this news. On page 7, there was an announcement about Bill 64, and that announcement is that Bill 64 is no longer going to happen. And this was something that we heard about like immediately when it was announced originally, that was going to be put in place, however long ago that was. I think it was a few months ago now.
Oh yes, it's quite a few months ago. It was a bill that came out of a study that they did with actually the current interim premier, I think was Minister of Education at the time, I think, Calvin Gertson, and they had a big study done, and the biggest thing that really didn't sit right with people was that they were going to amalgamate school divisions, and locally here it would have been an amalgamation, I think, of Rolling River, Pine Creek, and Beautiful Plains all into one. And but through the whole discussion, it was interesting. I found the common theme was, whether you're talking to Jason Young from Beautiful Plains School Division, or I've talked to former staffers, I've talked to a lot of other people, well, not a lot, half a dozen other people, I guess, and they all said there was change needed. There's changes needed, but there certainly isn't an agreement on what the changes should be. And there's such a high level of, they had 500 people signed up to speak against this bill at the committee meeting. Well, that's pretty dumb to go ahead with a bill that's, you know that 500 people are willing to go public with their opposition to the bill. So the NDP wanted 5 bills delayed till the fall, which they were allowed to do, and that happened, and given a hoist, so to speak. And the Premier Gertson, on his first day in office, in his new role, said, we're done. These bills are all canceled, and they're going back to the drawing board. Mm-hmm. So it gives them a chance to reboot and everybody to get a chance to indicate what those changes are that they do want. The amalgamation of the school division thing is directly driven by the fact that in the city of Winnipeg, I think there's 5 school divisions. Well, on the surface, that doesn't seem to make sense. Like, I mean, why would you have 5 school divisions in one relatively small geographic area? Quite different when your school divisions are, 75 miles long in the rural areas. But so I think that's what's driving that, is it? And some of the people in the school division, if you look at the frame report, if anybody's interested, look up frame report, and you can see what the cost per student is. Beautiful Plains School Division, by the way, has a very low cost per student, and has for years. And of course they say, leave us alone, we're doing fine. and with certain justification, they're able to say that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's this was mentioned at the meeting with Heather as well, but she said that, and I can certainly believe it. Like I've seen the signs around town saying "shut the door" on 64. Like I've seen a good amount of them, but pretty much like immediately after the announcement came down that it wasn't going to happen, she was hearing people saying, "Thank goodness," because they didn't want it to happen. So to hear all the people come together when it was originally announced, and then the announcement now that it's not going to happen, it's definitely something that shouldn't have happened, and thankfully is not going to. As we've said before, education definitely needs some changes, but we need to figure out what those are, and this wasn't it. So it's good to hear that.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of time, so very quickly we can mention Herbs for Health, which we've got on page 9. They've got some new owners there. If I can find the names real quick, Janet Hussick and Karen Burton have sold it to Ernie and Emma Waldner, so congratulations to the Waldners for obtaining a new business. I'm sure you're looking very forward to carrying it out there. And I hope to learn more about it. I unfortunately didn't have time to go over this story, but I think they'll do good.
Yeah, no, it's a long-standing business there, and welcome to them for sure.
And with sports as well, on page 13, the Neepawa Titans have finished their training camp, and they're getting into the preseason, aren't they?
Yes, as of today, the Thursday we're taping this show, they had a game here Tuesday night. They lost 3-2 to Weihwah, but on Wednesday night they went back to Weihwah and they won 4-3 in overtime. So, but it is just preseason. There's a lot of rookies, not many veterans playing in those games. And then the game is Saturday night, the 11th, is the next preseason game against Portage. That'll be quite a bit tougher game probably. Traditionally Portage is pretty tough competition. So.
And it's kind of exciting to see the Titans go over their name change and start putting things out. And now they're finally going to be in their first season as the Titans. How does that feel for you, being involved with the team?
Well, it was a long, hard process. I mean, it wasn't that hard a decision, but it's a lot of work. I mean, legal work and name changes and all this kind of stuff. But the beauty of it is that people have really embraced it, and embrace the change is one of their mottos right now. And the other thing is that all the Neepawa minor hockey teams, they're all changing their jerseys, changing their names. So all the teams in Neepawa are going to be Titans going forward. That's really pretty gratifying to the team, to see the community buy in at that depth.
Yeah, and I hope that the support for the team will continue to grow. It's a pretty big change to make, going through the name change. It might not seem like it is, but it does take a lot of time and effort and, of course, money to go through that, because you have to redesign all of their content, all their logos. And they have a very good logo on the ice now. I know that people have seen that in our paper in the past. We are going to start running short on time, but there is a lot more to see in this paper. Always be sure to take out a look at the editorial pages. We have letters, thumbs ups, and lots of submitted stories, lots of other in-house written stories as well. And as always, we can't do this without a little help. We really appreciate people who call in, give us news tips, submit their news stories, photos, things that they've seen, historical things that you might have lying around your house. Maybe you find it while you're doing renovations one day. But if you have any of that, feel free to call us at 204-476-3401 or contact us at news@neepawabanner.com. And of course, financially, we are a free paper, so we do rely on ads. So if you'd like to book an ad with us, contact us at ads@neepawabanner.com. On behalf of myself, Casper Wehrhahn, and Ken Waddell, thank you for joining us on Story Behind the Stories.